Thank you so much, Cindy, for the opportunity. And hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to Jobwher webinar today. And I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Fristy, your host for this session. And welcome to Jobwher first webinar. Okay, now let's get down to the business. Hello, Ian. How are you today?
Yeah, hello, Precision. It's nice to meet you again today. I'm fine, thank you. What you?
It's kind of a bit cold,
Yeah,
here
yeah.
in Osaka. And by the way, this is our office in Osaka, Jobwher office. And also, okay, before we get started, would you mind to give a short introduction about yourself first?
Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Wiandono and You can call me Wian. I'm from Indonesia, as you may already know. I'm from Brawijaya University. Currently, I'm working on as a back-end developer, and I also handle some projects here and there in Flex. And yeah, nice to meet you all. Hope we can discuss interesting stuff and I can share some of my experience here.
Cool. So, Wian-san, how long have you been working in Japanese companies?
So I've been working like full-time working since March last year. So around 9 months. But last year in September, no, not last year, 2 years ago, back in September, I also do an internship here in the same company. So basically, I continue the internship and become a full-time worker. And then, yeah, around 1 year.
1 year, yeah. So in this 1 year of experience working in Japanese companies and working here in Japan, what is the advantages of working for the Japanese companies in terms of salary, exposure, and experience?
Okay. From salary first. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious for salary that if you are a full-time worker, your salary will be like based on the minimum wage of Japan standard, yeah. And salary for software engineers in Japan, especially in this kind of situations that Haruki-san already said before, that the demand is high while the supply is kind of low. So they kind of raise the salary for software developers around this kind of times. It's super good.
How about the exposure?
The exposure itself. I think for exposure, I can give like 2 category, like knowledge exposures and like your career path exposures. For the experience itself, Japanese company likes to help their employee to kind of grow in what kind of knowledge they can get in the company while they're working there. So when you are actually working on a specific branch like a back-end developer, they will not only tell you to do back-end stuff or that kind of things, but they also kind of guide you on what is the next thing our company want to do like next year or in the next 2 years. So you kind of also gain a lot of new experience and knowledge. For the career path itself, I think the most beneficial features is once you work full-time here, you are open to more broad opportunity in Japanese job market because you're already here in Japan, and it's a really huge advantage instead of when you are still in your home country and you want to come to Japan. Yeah. That's my exposures. I think you have one more question, right? Experience.
Yeah. Experience.
Almost forgot. Right?
Almost forgot. And then what was it?
The experience. I think it's kind of the same with the exposure itself. So yeah, it's not like you only do one stuff and that's about it. But you are free to explore what is your interests and the company visions too. So you will get a lot of different experience while working in a Japanese company.
Okay, thank you so much for really thorough answers. And okay, then another things that might be our Indonesian friends curious. like what are the differences between working in Japanese companies and local companies, especially in Indonesia?
Okay, the difference. I think most of the difference is come from the how the company move, like how they do their stuff, that kind of things, and how the communications works between coworkers and stuff. Interesting stuff is we like to communicate in a really unique, not really unique, but it's new to me when the first time start working here. So so it's kind of moved to like cultural kind of uniqueness between Indonesian company and Japanese company.
So mostly in the cultural.
Mostly in the cultural stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so and what kind of challenge and how you get done with those challenge during working with Japanese companies?
Yeah, as Haruki-san already said before also, some of the company requires you to have a really good Japanese communication skills, like N2, GLPD, it's actually kind of hard, right? Yeah, so communications is also the most problem. Well, it's also the most unique one. Yeah, it's a challenge. Not not just that you need to understand Japanese, but you also need to understand how they communicate in daily life, like the minimum context that Harrison also said. Yeah, that kind of stuff is really true, and you need to kind of adapt to the kind of communications because it's really different. Maybe in your home country, where in Indonesia, I think the way we communicate is more open when we have something that is we want to say to other party, we just kind of say it. But in here, in Japan, I think people like to avoid confrontations between each other. So they really talk in like they put little code in their body language maybe, or in that kind of stuff.
Like indirect
communications. And yeah, so because I don't really understand Japanese and I can't speak Japanese, so I need to really understand the context of the conversation. So I need to make sure that okay, this conversation is about this kind of things, this kind of things.
Okay, that's working in Japan. How about the remote?
The remote
work.
Like, yeah. So after I done my internship 2 years ago, I continue working as a remote developer. So I work from Indonesia and still finishing my university life at that time. It's not as strict as if you are a full-time worker. So I think I remember correctly, I only work for like 2 or 3 hours a day. And not even like every day. It just depends on whenever I have access to my laptops or whenever we have a specific task that need to be done by me. So it's actually pretty fun because I also that's also an opportunity for me to exercise my skills, right? And even though I'm working as a remote worker, the salary itself is still standard based on the Japanese standard. So yeah, it's also really
so the advantage of the remote works,
still intact.
So you still get the salary while you don't have to get into direct like communication, or you don't have to understand the culture. You understand maybe, but don't have to be like too detailed. So it's really different when you work in person like that. And also to get the working visa, Japanese working visa, it's really takes time. It's around 3 months until 6 months for the process itself, and it require a lot of so many documents, a lot of paperwork
and waiting.
Yeah. So we have that 2 ways, the conventional ways and the remote remote works.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to try the conventional ways, maybe you can try find the job vacancies that providing you a visa to work here or do the support for the visa. And also you guys should check whether they will provide you with the accommodation or not, and a lot of things should be considered before you move to Japan. While on the second option, when you do the remote working, you don't have to move from your home country. You don't even have to move from your home. So in the from the perspective, which one is easier? Of course, the remote work is easier. Yeah, but if you want to try the culture, the Japanese culture itself, maybe moving to Japan can be your answer for that. And okay, then so what kind of opportunities are available in Jobwher? So you are the web developer of Jobwher, right? So what kind of project and what kind of position needed by the Japanese company?
I think the most common opportunities right now that we have is about a web developers, yeah, and mobile applications also. So both of those things is the most common one. But sometimes company also like to get UI UX designer. So not just like a front end or back end. Sometimes they also want UI UX. Sometimes they also want project managers kind of positions. Or even sometimes they look for people that can write a blog, copywriters, yeah, that kind of things. Sometimes also available.
So mostly anything that can be done remotely.
Remotely, anything that is usually still related to development. It's really common.
And so there are two types of project that are available in Jobwher. That is the private and public project. For the private project, you cannot apply it directly on our platform, but the Jobwher team will do selection, yeah, by themselves. So they will search for the candidates and then offer it to the companies. While for the public project, you can just apply it directly by yourself. And yeah, mostly the position needed is related with web developer, that is the front end, back end, full stack, designer, or digital marketing things, copywriting, and other things. So, okay, if I should conclude everything from interview with Wian-san, there are two options to work with Japanese company. Either you come here and work directly here with Japanese company, or you do the remote work with them. And they have the advantages and disadvantages by itself. While for the conventional way, it's kind of difficult to get the working visa, and we will have to take a lot of paperwork for that, and also it takes time. It's all around 3 until 6 months until you get your working visa, and also you should take care of insurance, accommodation, or anything before you move to Japan. And while the second option, the disadvantages is maybe you don't feel the real of Japan. So if you guys really want to try the culture, want to try the living situation here in Japan, maybe you can try to work here directly in person. But if you want the easier way, maybe remote working is one option for you. Okay, so thank you so much for the interview,
Thank you so much,
Wian. And so you guys, digital talents, don't be afraid to try and take a chance, whether it's come to Japan or do the remote working. So thank you so much for listening. Back to you, Cindy.